Well, hi. This is October 2nd, 2014. And I was just thinking I have a few minutes to talk to myself here before I have to leave the building. In the Old Testament, I've been reading through the prophet Jeremiah. And if you read Jeremiah, you realize that he was sent. He didn't have a very good job. He was sent by God to an obstinate, stubborn people who refused to hear what God had to say. On the outside, they looked like they were worshiping God, but they were really very much into idolatry and worshiping the Queen of Heaven and other gods and goddesses, and the gods of the Canaanites. And Jeremiah tried to warn them. Well, God tried to warn them through Jeremiah, and they didn't listen. And God sent judgment, and the more judgment God sent, Jeremiah kept pleading with them, and they got more obstinate. They didn't get better, they got worse. To the point where when Nebuchadnezzar came and conquered the city, he did it there were like 3 waves. The first time he came, he took certain of the Hebrews back to Babylon to try to transform them into good Chaldeans as opposed to good Jews. That's where we read Daniel and the 3 Hebrew boys. And the second wave, he went back and he set up another king. The first king he took down, set up another king whose name was Zedekiah. And when Nebuchadnezzar came back, he deposed him because Zedekiah tried to escape, tried to rebel against Nebuchadnezzar, which was not a smart thing to do, against the counsel of Jeremiah. So eventually, the third time Nebuchadnezzar came back, he destroyed the city, destroyed the temple, pulled it down, took almost all of the inhabitants captive back to Babylon. He did leave a handful there in Jerusalem, and he let Jeremiah stay there with him. And he put a fellow over them whose name was Gedaliah, who was seemingly a pretty good guy. Well, he got killed, he got murdered. And the people who were left, they went to Jeremiah. And you can read this in Jeremiah chapter 40, 41, 42, somewhere in there. They went to Jeremiah and they said, should we go to Egypt? Ask God if we should go to Egypt to get out of here, to escape the wrath of Nebuchadnezzar. And Jeremiah came back the next day and he said, God said, don't go to Egypt. And the people said, you're lying. You didn't hear from God. So he went to Egypt anyhow. And they took him with them. And when he was down there, he said, you're going to die here. And it all happened. You know, the word of the Lord is true. I was thinking how much we live in parallel times. Perilous times. They're perilous. But they're also parallel times. You know, the leadership of our nation has descended into such incompetency. And we're reading every day about just recently the Secret Service scandal where they exercised restraint. I mean, could you just imagine somebody coming after the president and they're exercising restraint? But the horrible leadership, the terrible, inept, at best inept, I'll say it like that. At worst, it might be, deliberate. It might be purposed in order to destroy our government. And that's a possibility too, but over the last 6 years, and even before that some, but especially the last 6 years, it's been one mess after another, one scandal after another, one failure after another of this government, of this president to take control. And every time something happens, they come out and they say, oh, well, man, we just heard it on the news. You know, here's the president of the United States, and he doesn't know what's happening until he hears it on the news. There was a guy actually riding in an elevator with him. I mean, here's the president of the United States with Secret Service, and there was another guy in the elevator with him who was a convicted felon with a gun. And they let him on the elevator with the President of the United States. It's just a wonder he's still living. But anyway, we're living in the same kind of times where when you stand up and you say, hey, listen, God says, people will mock and they'll laugh and they'll say, God doesn't say that. You know, after 9/11, everybody was saying, God bless America, God bless America. They're not saying that now. And it's just like in Jeremiah's time. The more stubborn they get, the more godless they get. It's reflected in the quality of the leadership of our nation, which is very poor on both sides of the aisle, in both parties. We no longer have statesmen, we have politicians, and there's a big difference. So I'm saying all that to say, you just got to be ready, because God's getting ready to do some things in this world. And when I say do some things, people say, God's getting ready. He's getting ready. Well, yeah, he's getting ready. He's not getting ready to pour out a big blessing. He's getting ready to pour out a lot of wrath. And I'm talking about before the rapture. I believe in a rapture, pre-trib rapture, all that stuff. Yeah, I do. But there's a whole lot that can happen before that happens. So listen, if you're a believer, you better get holy. You better get right. You better get in the Word. There's no room for sitting on a fence. There's no room for pretending to be a believer and not. You can't play both sides of the coin. You need to get with God. And if you're not a believer, you're probably mocking and laughing and making a big joke out of this right now. That's okay, but take a good close look around you. Read the newspaper. Ebola virus in the United States of America. And a guy comes on and says, it'll never touch anybody. Boo, we got it. Yeah, you got it. There's a lot coming down the pike, and you better be ready. You better put your faith in Jesus Christ and ask Him to forgive your sins and ask Him to make you holy, and you better sell out, because things are going to get pretty tough around here. Hey, God bless you. Have a great day.